Thank you for joining this session and this working meeting about reading room circulation. We will have a little presentation today discussing the work we've been doing so far under the resources thing with the special working group working with reading room circulation. So this is more of an overview of what we're doing right now, and then maybe if there are discussion topics and questions and so forth. And if you're interested in the continuing work with this, we're meeting every other Thursday, right? One of the time slots for the higher stage. So maybe I can talk myself. Some background. Thanks for Thomas Pratt for making this presentation for us. So we've added a little things to it. So as has been mentioned several times by me, is that we need this functionality. We have a majority of our loans are circulation loans that can't leave the building, so it's a very, very important workflow. It's a major part of our circulation. I usually say around 95%. It's a lot of it anyways. The current idea or what we are working with or iterating over in the working group is this will be a type of request that stays on the item until staff that the brief turns it off. It's removed, was a better word. That is part of the checking process that you actually signal that it's now finally returned to be delivered back to those stacks. All of this material brought up from those stacks to begin. Yes. Maybe I can stand over here, closer to the speaker. Yeah, let us know in the chat if you have problems with audio or anything else. Jana is thankfully monitoring chat, so we know what's happening. But this is something that we need to fulfill our current workflows. So it's a request that we need to continue with. This is our workflow that we started out with, or how it looks today, more or less. So we're not going to go through all this, but basically you request something that is read from stack. It gets checked in, and this is the interesting part that we're actually, because all this is more or less fulfilled already in FOLIO, but this is like, is it on the whole shelf in the reading room waiting to be loaned, or is it with an actual patron working with the material in the reading room? And this back and forth without recalculating loan dates and all that. This is the things that needs to be added. And then the end part, then it should be fine. That it's finally checked in and returned to the stacks that I just mentioned. We've been looking at not only our workflows, but there's several German libraries in this working group, and our workflow is pretty similar to a lot of others, thankfully. So it should be able to work the same. But there's other needs that are close to this. We have special collection or interlibrary loans that are limited in use that must stay in the building that works in similar ways. So there's some functionality already for this. The majority of the requirements are in the request sense already. Feel free to stop me and ask questions at any point. Yes. It's the question was if it could continue to be a loan, or if it is a loan, or if it just continues to be a request. You want to say?
Well, yes, it will be a loan when it's shipped out.
Yeah. But the request doesn't stop, as it usually is when you loan something out, the request gets removed. This is a request that will continue until it's finally checked in again. Then it's removed. Yeah, but you can't have this back and forth of statuses and keep track on where it is, etc. So we discussed several options for doing this. Should it be loans that where you change, for instance, statuses or locations back and forth to handle this, but that has some drawbacks as well. And keeping it as an extended request seemed like the best way of adding this functionality to keep track of where the material is by keeping the requests open while it's still an active load. Yeah, we'll continue. So we looked a little bit at our workflow. This is more, we tried to specify a common workflow based on all of these needs. 6 or 7 like workflow descriptions from various libraries. They're in the wiki, so you can take a look at them if you're interested. But this Thomas helped us to flesh this out into a common process of what is happening. That a request is placed, item is retrieved, it's found, information. This is a big part that we're working on as well. Pixlet, how does this work? Is it detailed enough for our needs? But it gets sent to a location and it's checked out to a patron. And afterwards, when they're finished, it gets returned. Here is central component. Is this still needed? And yes, goes back. Well, if not, and we have some bits here about slits notifications. But this is a kind of an overview of the process related to that.
In our current system, we have a feature for this. But I think most libraries manually. Papers.
Yeah, you go here basically circular motion just by keep track of having bigger slips in the books or writing it down. So this is something that we want added to FOLIO to help with that.
We can handle this workflow if they have an orders an item and never pick it up. So it died in the
yeah, there's still time, or you have a certain amount of time to set that material up. That's not collected. Sure. It never enters into this part.
Reports stays on the whole shelf for 7 days, then we get the report.
It seems like regular functionality stuff that's waiting after a certain period.
Yeah, and also if they have checked it out and they are not keep it on the shelf after 7 days, when they haven't read it, they haven't come to collect it again. It's yeah, they will remove it.
Any other questions? Yep, in the back. Yeah, everything that has this, it's a reading request. It's been checked out. To the end of the day, turn. I don't know, create a simple list or something that keep track of this that you use at the end of the day. Should be pretty forward, at least in my mind. Sorry, maybe you have the video on. Just a little bit. Did I answer your question? Okay, I think I mentioned this a little already. Is that the solution that we have in mind for this is to extend the requests app and utilize the circulation. We need to add new tokens, slips, to be able to support this workflow. For instance, we print fixed slips that are dual and they're written in half and one's kept input. And both medium flow or layout ability and with the notices slips that's available today. We need to extend the request form as well and the checkout apps. Say check in and check out. Yeah. So that we have one you see this here's a setting page where you can actually then just click if you want this request to stay on for this kind of request. So you would create a reading room, a specific request that are for reading rooms, and then you can add a checkbox saying, yes, this is persistent request. It will keep running until you have this final checkout. And some of the new tokens we've discussed. There's a lot of them.
So this is the tokens we use now. This is the information we use now on our slips, but we have not decided if we're going to have probably slips in FOLIO. So maybe not everything is needed. So
yeah, but there's at least there are some gaps there. Yeah, some functionality or some extra tokens around that. We've been discussing if it should be a new token setting as well, where you can specify more request types and what kind of slips is needed and how they interact. So it can be part of the new setting page, just a single table basically to address if it could be from the German library side, it could differ. If this is a slip that is supposed to be viewed by a patron, then you don't want to specify their name on it, for instance, or if it's something that only staff manage, and you can have other kinds. Okay? So this is a way of managing that a little more clearly. So some of this work are not extremely specifically tied to reading room circulation, but it is things that we need to have this workflow working. Right. So that's why we're testing them as well. This is what I mentioned a little bit about having a more detailed editor for managing staff slips with columns and line breaks and having things on different Today it's just a list of tokens that have more of a, okay, the barcode can be in the middle and some information can be to the right in this way. So you can make use of the actual paper so it doesn't just stand forever. And here is an example of potentially like a column based. Something to a little better work, be able to work with templates on how these things look. And anyone who is part of the working group, feel free to add things forget. Yeah, you also need to be able to change the types of requests. It's something that's been discussed at the working meetings as well. If something happens and this material is still, but might be that we decide that this should actually be a reading room. This material is actually a rare material. It wasn't listed that way in our system, so we didn't know until we actually looked at it. This actual book is worth €100,000, so we should not lend it out. Keep it in the reading room. So then we need to be able to change the type of request that it is. Well, some flexibility. An example of that. And that's button or checkbox that yes, this is an actual reading room request. You can manage in that way. We've also been discussing check-in options, how this works. In a lot of workflows for libraries that does this, sometimes most of my loans are regular loans that are out of the building. Sometimes there are reading room loans, then it's fine to have like a pop-up where you say this is it could be go back to wait on the shelves in the reading room and another button that says this is the final return. That's for us where we have lots and lots of these, we don't want staff to be clicking pop-ups all the time. So there needs to be some sort of option on how to manage this. So there's been some talk, and that one idea is to have more of a drop-down function. That's correct. To be able to be flexible and manage both of these, more of a workflow that works if you have a lot of these, and more one that you need perhaps do this more seldom. So we can manage both these workflows in the stuff that we are doing. And this is pop-up version. You can maintain request for your requirements. Sound again. Yep. Oh, weird. I don't know. You have to alert me if it's better or worse. No. You need to look here.
So small, I can see.
But that's the first one. I think there's one for the other options as well.
Maybe I think
Yeah. Oh, I can do the talking.
same as here. Return to that, if you can choose if you want to, mostly when you back to the shop, so you don't have to change that.
Yeah, so it's usually more easily, if there's a lot of these, you can easily like change drop downs and you can manage a lot of them at the same time. Oh, here's one that's a final return. I'll change that, do that one, and then go back to clearing them again. Not technically that pop up every time that happens.
I think this is the better for us.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe you can do like short.
Shortcuts for that as well. To toggle this, that would be ideal to have like desktop shortcuts where you change this. Well, that would be very similar to the current workflow. So fun.
Yeah.
For that. Yeah, I think that was our short presentation of what we have done so far. I did not move away from it now. I learn finally, slowly. Time for questions, or is there something you want to know more about or discuss, or have you not thought about this thing? Yes. No, they are not. We talked to them beforehand. They have, as far as we understand, they have pretty similar workflow to us, but it's, as usual, this second part where stuff move around in the room is handled manually. And what we got back for them was, we don't have time to look at this now, maybe later in the future. If you do something, that's great. I haven't heard anything about anonymized. Say that word.
I think maybe some people have, some libraries have more control over their reading rooms and what they hand out. But we have check out this not in the reading room, but it's from the reading room. So we don't have control over where they go.
Just that so they can leave the building.
Yes, they can leave the building. But within the building, we don't know. So maybe it's different if you have reading room access to go into the reading room when you are there.
Another question.
Usually for this to be leveraged by, say, an archivist who, as the speaker, is investing in this. So that maybe
Not specifically,
Yeah.
no.
We have a special collection, another system, archive system, and they request by email or other system, and then they have a time. I want this material at the specific day and time, but it's not in the library system. We have discussed it. We want to get in the special info, if it's possible to have something like that.
Yeah, but it hasn't really been part of what we've been discussing. It's working. Yeah, adding times and so forth. It seems like adding even more functionality on top of this. But the first part, yes, just getting the actual requests from other systems into Folio to be able to manage it in the reading, that we have discussed. I think that could be so have a little integration using Atom access to memory or archive material. We can have an API that creates small, like an item and small instance record, and then they can circulate and work any other reading room mode, just that it's a special collection, but not the actual deciding times and all of that added stuff has not been discussed either in-house or in this working group. But it's a good idea. It could be the next step of this, perhaps having more functionality. Yeah, sorry. I really am sorry for sucking at the audio at this point. That's why we didn't want it hybrid. Sorry, but yeah. Another question. Yes. Flag is still on. You can't move it outside of the building. We'll start beeping. Oh, sorry, I forgot, even though you told me to. The question was about RFID tags and if the flag is on. Perfect. You're like my interpreter. Thanks. More questions, or do we have questions in chat?
Maybe because they can't hear.
Well, look at this nice slide that Thomas made. Who did it? Well, there's still things that need to be fleshed out a bit. Some of these like ideas on how things can actually work and what kind of tokens is really needed. And it's like there's still a bunch of details we need to flesh out a little bit more. But then after that work is done, it's more or less having business analysts analyze, okay, what's been done in this working group, add this as requirements, and then have some sort of development team work on it. Yes, another question.
The intention of configuring whether or not on the request and then apply in the circulation.
The question was if this. The question was if this is managed on the request policies and managed in circulation. The idea so far in the working group is yes. That's one of the perks of going the request route is that we can get that into the circulation rules. Being both clearer and more flexible than other options. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Would this be interesting for you? Do you have reading room circulation in your libraries? The audience said yes. So this would be of interest to you as well. If it developed good enough, that it could be used. The question was about how we receive feedback and the ways in to comment on this work, basically. I would say the wiki is the best starting point right now under the RA SIG. And because this is still ongoing work, it's very easy to participate or send input that way. I assume it will be fleshed out in the JIRAs later on, but that's further along. Yeah. It was mentioned that it's good to monitor the resource access SIG in Slack, and that this work from this small group or working group will be brought back and presented to the RA SIG. So you want to keep track with what's going on. That's a good place to keep an eye on. Other questions or comments? Yeah? All right, well, thank you very much for your time, for coming back. And thank you online. All right.